I'm live. Oh, I'm live. I'm live. I'm live. How's everybody doing this evening? How's everybody doing this evening? It's your brother True Jew tapping in with you as the host of the Voice of Zion. I hope everybody's doing well today. I hope everybody's doing extremely well today. Has been blessed today. Had to figure this thing out. Let me see. Let's see if y'all can hear me okay. Let me click this on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, we on. Think y'all can hear me now. All right. Yeah, y'all see it. Remember Zion, serving up a Babylon special. I don't know if y'all remember the song. By the rivers of Babylon, when we sat down, yeah, we wept as we remembered Zion. By the rivers of Babylon, when we sat down, yes, we wept as we remember Zion. There the wicked carried us away in captivity and required of us a song. Now how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that song? Who put that out? Boney M? And look, as soon as I said that, the time was 1:37 that we've been live. So that song is based off of Psalm chapter 137, and we're going to be getting into that tonight. All right. I'm going to leave a little message for the live chat, get that popping. We're going to touch on some things. We're going to touch on some things. Dealing with ancestry and dealing with, your genealogy, it'll lead you to some very interesting places. A lot of us here, so called African Americans, have roots to this land that we live in. Okay. A lot of us have roots to this land that we live in, whether our ancestors were here already or whether they were brought over on those slave ships. Okay. Now, this particular live stream isn't about the geographical history per se of our people here, but there are some very significant regions and places, place names in this country, which would help us identify that our people were indeed here for a long time before the advent of colonialism. But today I'm going to be reading from the book of Exodus, in the book of, in the book of Psalm. Let me put that in the live chat too. From the books of Exodus, we're going to be reading from chapter 12 and Psalm 137. Okay. And I thank all of you all for joining the live stream today. I'm sure many of you are in the middle of getting ready to eat your Thanksgiving dish, getting ready to eat your Thanksgiving food. As you notice, tonight I'm coming to you all from my office, and that's for a number of reasons. It's getting colder out there, and in the truck. But also, usually I do my truck live streams just so I could sit out on the land. But it obviously got darker. Okay, we had some rain, some overcast, and some rain the past day or 2 days. Should be another 2 days of rain. So it got darker a little sooner. And so I like to be able to not use my words as much as the Most High's words. So I don't be liking to run my truck if I don't have to. So with that being said, I don't have any light outside, so we're gonna come inside and do some reading. But one thing that I want y'all to remember today is I know many of us are still dealing with what it means to be a part of this system, right? Let me turn up my volume real quick on my mic. That's output and that's input. Let's do input volume about right there. Hello, hello, hello. Let's do it about right there and see what we get. Hello, hello, hello. Yo, yo, yo. Yo, 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 yo. All right. I got on this new headset. I remember y'all was telling me it's hard for you to hear me when I do my ear pods. So if y'all could give me a sound check for whoever's joined on the live stream right now, and I will be able to confirm, or you'll be able to confirm for me if you can hear me okay. Okay. You'll be able to confirm if you can hear me okay. Like I said, now, one thing when we realize who we are, Hebrew Israelite people, it's more than just identity confirmation. It's more than identity confirmation. Many of us are going through identity crisis right now. Let me upload this. Let me expand this screen. Okay. Many of us are going through identity crises right now, not knowing who we are, thinking that we're African Americans, so-called African Americans, so-called Black people. Some of us even still call ourselves Negroes. Okay. The thing about this is it's baby steps. Now, if you ask those of us who've been in the truth for a while, those of us who've been realizing the signs, who have been seeing the signs, who have been seeing all of this take place in front of us, we would tell you that time looks like it's winding down. And if you've come to this party as of late and you're just now waking up to who you are, well, that's a beginning step, obviously. Many folks who are resonating with the truth of who we are right now have been in Christian church more than likely their whole lives. So it's not like you're not familiar with the Bible. It's just that the way the Bible narrative was presented to you, it was an antithesis to who you actually are as a person in this realm. And so it wasn't read to you and illustrated to you in the correct manner. And so that's one of the reasons that you weren't able to see yourself in the scriptures, or even when you saw yourself in the scriptures, taking that narrative and that perspective to your pastor or your preacher, you would be quickly shot down, be put back in line, and then you would go on about your business. So, what we're seeking to do with this information and this knowledge now is make sure that you have a full and complete understanding, understanding, and overstanding about who you actually are and what that means for today as we are in the last days of the last days. And when you understand that you are truly a Hebrew Israelite, then it's important for you to do what we call repent. Okay, repent because the law, statutes, and commands were given to the Hebrew Israelite people. One could only fall in sin if they have the law, statutes, and commands to break. Okay. So if you don't have the law, statutes, and commands, how are you sinning? Sin comes from breaking those law, statutes, and commands. And there's one people on the earth who were given those law, statutes, and commands directly, and those are the Hebrew Israelite people. And it is because we as a people broke the law, statutes, and commands that we were spread to the four corners of the earth in this captivity that we are experiencing today. Okay, so there's a lot going on with that. It's more than just identifying who you are at this point for the sake of saying, oh, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, I'm cool, look at me. It's not about that only. Now it's about doing work, getting back right with the Most High, seeking the face of the Most High, and actually returning unto a righteous, upright, and pious life in servitude to the Most High. Okay. It's also when we realize who we are, we can begin to separate ourselves from this Babylonian system, from this wicked satanic system that we live in. A lot of us have issues with the separation part because we still see ourselves as a intrinsic part of this system. We still see ourselves as a part of the so-called American family, the American dream. We still have a lot that we want to achieve as these byword referred to individuals. We're African Americans, we're so-called Black, we're so-called Negro. We just need to pull ourselves up from the bootstraps and get with the American dream, and we need to do our best in order to find our piece of the pie and hold on to it. Well, I mean, we're the ones who built this country. We're the ones who built this country, and every time we sought to establish our own communities, every time we sought to do something to empower ourselves, that self-empowerment was actually perceived as a threat to the Europeanized systematic structure that we live in right now. So it's not like we have not done our best to show that we are productive, just like any other, just like the foreign entities who find their ways into these lands. But it's that there's something about us as a people that is a great threat to the global system itself. There's something that separates us from the Chinese immigrants who come to this country and are able to establish Chinatown, and not only able to establish Chinatown, but able to leverage this system in order to build up their own back in China by sending resources and sending money, or the fact that Chinese immigrants can come into this land as foreigners and actually purchase land and build infrastructure here to leverage and empower them back at their home in China. Or the Arabs or the East Indians or the numerous European countries, peoples from the numerous European countries who are able to come into this country here and establish systems within the system that would enable them to then take those resources back to their mother and fatherlands. So it's not like we haven't tried. Okay, it's not like we haven't tried, but every time we do, we are targeted, and those systems that we seek to create or have created in their infancy are shut down before they can actually begin to flourish. So this is another indicative sign of who we are as Hebrew Israelite people in the places of our captivity. You see, we weren't brought here to flourish. We weren't brought here to live the American dream. We weren't brought here and spread through the four corners of the world to be um, prosperous in the sense that we see other nations. We were brought here first and foremost, and I'm quick to say it. We were brought here because this was a part of our punishment as people turning away from the Most High's law, statutes, and commands. Okay, we had our own land. We were flourishing and abundant. We were above all nations when we were in our land doing the things that we were decreed to us to do by the Most High. But once we fell away from the Most High and we began to seek after the ways of the other nations, the Most High promised that if we did that, we would be punished for doing that, and the other nations would then be placed over us, as we see today. And so we weren't put here again to live the American dream. Okay, we were actually put here as a punishment, decreed as extended from the Most High in order to chastise us and in order to get us to turn back to the Most High and turn from our wicked ways. Now, because many of us we all had our culture stripped from us. We had our names, original names, stripped from us. We were given the surnames of the slave owners, slave masters. We were given the surnames of those who we were sold amongst and who we were traded back and forth to as a denotation of identity or property identification. In this place today, we are still regarded as three-fifths of a man and woman. We are still not seen as whole human beings. Okay, even though we are above average in every single way in this human experience, we are still seen as property. We have not been given our freedom. We have to pay just to leave this place. And then when we leave, there's no help, there are no resources uh, given or extended to us from this system's coffers of information, which would help us return back to the places where those early slave shippers and those early slave masters knew where we were from in their record keeping databases. Okay. It's every man for himself if we decide to leave this country. let alone be in this country. It's every man for himself, brother against brother, sister against sister, in this form of competition, uh, uh, crabs in a bucket type mentality. Where we see one of our brothers or sisters making it, we begin to get jealous and chop them down, and that movement is compromised by our own lack of self-worth and self-value. And we, instead of supporting one another, we have this horrible habit of hating on each other and not supporting one another, and making sure that we make, uh, quite honestly, make it a living hell for our kinsmen and kinswomen to move forward and possibly get in position. Then many of our kinsmen and kinswomen who can get in position grow selfish themselves, bitter towards their own people, and turn a blind eye to their people, and get in position and decide not to reach back down into that bucket to pull up another and to help another get in position. And so, without doing something strange for a piece of change, or without having to sell a soul, or without having to do something that compromises the integrity of our people. So, we're in a very strange predicament. And I know there have been many elders who've come before me who did not want to lean on the Most High and did not want to search out our condition through the scriptural narrative in order to pinpoint exactly what's going on. And I know there's been many initiatives proposed. There's been many mission statements that have been written up in regards to our people, how to help our people. And every single organization has been shot down. Every single organization's leader has been either arrested, accused of anti-Semitism, either arrested and accused of civil unrest, or either killed and assassinated. And that organization has slowly dwindled away, and we've been seeing this since we've been brought off of those ships. Okay, we've been seeing this activity since we've been brought off of those ships. So what I'm saying is nothing new. It's just that if you were led to this channel tonight, for instance, and this is your first time seeing this live stream, then you would have to say, "Wow, even though this is nothing new, why out of all days would this brother be speaking about this? What's the significance of him speaking this today? Like what is that about? How can that be? What is his thought process in regards to today? Why is he not talking about the football game, if there's one playing? Why is he not talking about the basketball game if there's one playing? What is so important that this was placed on his heart to talk about today? And is this a coincidence? Well, I don't deal with coincidences at all. As a child of the Most High, everything happens for a reason. Everything is divinely ordained. And this goes back into what I was saying about our punishment here. Many people don't like to deal with that. The fact that our purpose here is not to get the material. Our purpose here is to not to get the big house. Our purpose here is not to stunt and flex on one another. Our purpose is not to run up and down a football field. Our purpose is not to slam dunk a basketball. Our purpose is not to hit the next grand slam. Our purpose is not free agency. Our purpose is not the next highest multi-million dollar basketball NBA contract. Our purpose is not uh, to be in Hollywood. Our purpose is not to try to figure out how we get big and large in business in this country and become corporate CEOs and entities. Now, the scriptures do tell us a man that doesn't work doesn't eat. We understand that fully. We do. But our purpose is to not be misconstrued with any of that. Okay, not to be so inundated with the chase of the American dream that we forget the number one reason that we are here. And once again, we're here in this land because we have fallen away from all statutes and commands of the Most High. And in doing so, there were a series of promises that would be guaranteed to us as a people. Only one people on the face of this earth would be guaranteed these promises is coming from the Most High. These series of curses and series of issues and problems that would befall us if we fell away from the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High. And in falling away, and purposefully turning our backs, our forefathers and foremothers, purposefully turning our backs on the Most High, there was going to be the promise of captivity, of enslavement across the four corners of the world. And that is how you would know who you were. That would be one of the promised beacons of hope and light in a time and day like today, when our names were stripped from us, when our cultures were stripped from us, when our languages were stripped from us, when we were stripped from our land. Okay. as the only people on earth who do not know where we belong, who do not know what nation we are to flee to if we should get our freedom from this place, if we should turn into those so called expats and decide to get our passports and leave. Where do we go? Where do we go? Do we just sojourn across the world and figure out a place that resonates with us and live there? Well, that's the issue that we all face because the majority of us, unfortunately, do not know who we are. Okay. We have a land right now, but that land has been compromised by outsiders who are claiming to be us, which adds to the confusion, which adds to confirmation of the narrative as we read those who say they are Jews, but who are not, but of the synagogue of Satan. Okay. As we read in Revelations chapter 3, verses 8 and 9. Okay, so this is very serious. I'm going to be reading some letters today. Since it's Thanksgiving, one of the things about realizing you are a Hebrew Israelite is returning to the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High, but also the feast days of the Most High, the holy days of the Most High. You see, there is a heritage. Okay, there was a heritage and a cultural inheritance that the Hebrew Israelite people were supposed to maintain, that we were supposed to maintain throughout all of our generations. But once we were placed into this captivity, and those captivities around the world, we were then caused to celebrate the feast days and festivals and holidays of our oppressors, of our captors. Okay. And this is another reason we're still confused today. Even though we know or starting to wake up to who we are, people, we're still dealing with the the systematic uh the systematic what shall I say, encroachment that we've all been forced to deal with. Meaning, this Babylon system has reached the far ends of the earth. Okay. The country of America's influence is everywhere. You have people, I'm sure, in other countries, if they're not celebrating Thanksgiving, they're at least very aware that today is Thanksgiving in this country. And so they might be doing their own little thing to celebrate to the best of their abilities. But being a Hebrew Israelite means leaving these holy days alone, totally doing away with them, leaving them alone and returning back, excuse me, holidays, leaving these holidays alone and turning back to the holy days of the Most High. Okay. It's very important. And what I constantly see is, and I have to extend the same mercy to my brethren and sisterin that I hope the Most High will extend to me. But for years now, I have stopped the celebration of Christmas and stopped the celebration of Thanksgiving. And I know some folks will be like, well, brother, this is just a day of thanks. This is a day where we get together as family. A lot of us are off today. And, this is just out of the year where everybody gets to celebrate and everybody gets to come together and enjoy festivities together as a family unit. Well, my defense in that and what I have to say to that is every day should be a day of Thanksgiving, especially when you start to realize who you are and that you still have breath in your lungs to do something about it and to repent. Oh, I feel so sorry and sad for those individuals of our people, especially who've been taken down, who've been taken out of this realm, who are being made to see now the error of their ways in the era of our ways. It reminds me of the rich man and Lazarus, that rich man who didn't believe in anything except getting riches. And then he was uh, dispatched. He was passed away, and he got to see the the throes of the underworld. And he wanted so much to just have a drop of water placed onto his tongue. And as much as Lazarus, the poor beggar man, wanted to do that, once he passed away, he was unable to reach across that great, great expanse and actually deliver water to the rich man. The rich man then, realizing this, asked if he can go back up to earth if he can go to the physical realm and just talk to his brothers for just a moment and detail to his brothers and share with his brothers that the place of the underworld was indeed real. And if he could do anything to show them that and to get them to live correctly and get them to live righteously and piously while they still had the breath of life in their lungs to do the right thing. But it was too late. It was too late. If they didn't believe Moses and the prophets while they were alive, why would they believe a ghost or a spirit telling them? They would just associate that with some spookism. They would associate that ghost coming back with an evil spirit. They would associate that ghost coming back trying to tell them the right thing as a dream or something that they need to run away from. Okay, so they wouldn't believe it either way unless it was placed on their hearts by the Most High to believe. So the point is, we're living in a similar day now where it's still the valley of dry bones, where we still have people beginning to wake up, but they're still on the fence about what they want to do. They're still on the fence about how they want to leave this system alone. Therefore, we have many folks who even know that they're Hebrew Israelites who will get together today and who will observe Thanksgiving. Okay. I remember when I first realized who I was and was brought into the truth of me being a Hebrew Israelite, I I would talk to my family about this, and that's why I know the excuses of, oh, well, this is just a day for celebration. This is just a day where blah, 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 blah. But in that same vein, I realized that I would be ostracizing myself if I continued in this narrative, and I would have to find a way to stand strong. I would have to find a way to deal with the name calling, the crazy, and the energy that was going to be directed toward me being a talking point in Thanksgiving and in these celebrations without me being there. It wasn't going to be a talking point of, hey, you know what he's doing today? Listen what he has going on. It's a great thing he has going on. It's a great thing she has going on. No, 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 sis. You're gonna be a talking point. You're going to be called crazy for associating with yourself, with your true history, with your true culture. You're going to be called crazy for identifying yourself for who you truly are. Okay. And this is a dilemma that many of us face, and many of us who have been brought into this truth now have to deal with that. And it can be nerve wracking. It could be scary for a lot of people to have to leave what they've known their whole lives alone and forsake the holidays of this system in reverence for those established by the Most High. But this is what we were called to do in the swing of honoring and celebrating the high holy days of the Most High. The more you'll get accustomed to it, used to it, and it'll become second nature until the point where you totally forget about days like today, unless of course you have the media in front of you, family who are still reminding you or texting you happy Thanksgiving and this sort of thing, and then you have to deal with it that way. Of course, be kind, you know be kind in all your ways. You don't have to text them back, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Oh, they know, but they're still going to text you happy Thanksgiving, because even though they've been told by you that we are Hebrew Israelite people, they're still not um off of the fence, or they still want to live in rebellion to the Most High. Therefore, they're going to text you happy Thanksgiving. But what I want to do before we get into the scriptures is I want to read um, a little letter for you. Now, this letter was written, I believe, from the year 1609. Thank you. The year 1609. Actually, from 1607, these letters began to go out, okay, from Captain John Smith. And many of you are familiar with Captain John Smith. He's the Englishman who came over from England during the beginning of the 1600s in order to colonize the Eastern Shoreboard. Uh, Hunt is from. Okay. Now, there was a man named George Percy, okay, who also traveled with John Smith. He was considered one of the wealthier individuals, and he was one of the first 144 men, I believe, who settled in Jamestown in 1607. Now, he was considered a gentleman, but there was nothing gentle about him. Okay, they always have these titles and weird names for themselves to throw the people off from their actual energy, okay, from their true intent. So I'm going to read something for you in regards to what Thanksgiving really meant back then. Okay, even in elementary school, we're told that the Indians were just so kind and showing these people how to forage the land and how to till the land and grow food off of the land and this and that. But we never hear about how these colonists looked at the natives or the indigenous people who were here on the Eastern Shoreboard. Okay, we never look at this. And one thing I'll say without getting too deep is these indigenous peoples that were on the Eastern Shoreboard in the southeastern areas of this country were considered to be Negroes. Okay, and this is something that many people are bringing out today, and you can do tons of research yourself in regards to this, but I'm not going to make this particular live stream the focal point. I need you to understand why our people on the Eastern Shoreboard were called savages, okay, by the colonists coming in while they called themselves gentlemen, okay. Now, I'm going to read a narrative for you about what inspired the first Thanksgiving as we know it today, or as it grew into what we know today, and what it actually meant in 1607. Okay, now this is something that you might not have heard before. It's a narrative that is suppressed. Okay, it is greatly, greatly suppressed. And it's something that we have to look at when it comes to inspiration. Okay, when it comes to this idea that we are doing something today which is a national iconic festivity. Okay, like I said, in elementary school we're told one thing, but that's to inundate us into the lie. The reality and the truth of this one thing, though, is a lot different. And I don't think that many of us have heard this narrative. Now, I found out this narrative, and when I did, it definitely confirmed for me that I didn't want to be dealing with no Thanksgiving. Now, I had stopped dealing with Thanksgiving for years before I found this narrative. I was led to this narrative because I was doing genealogical research on part of my family, which led me deep into the rabbit hole in regards to the actual writings that the colonists wrote in regards to the so-called savages. Okay, my ancestors and ancestresses that were already here. Okay. Now, they say all sorts of wicked things about us. They've written all sorts of nasty, debasing things about us. History in this country always starts from a colonial perspective. We know that the victors of any wars get to write the narrative and get to inject his story into the narrative that the descendants of those who were conquered then have to read about, write about, and discuss and learn about so that we can stay brainwashed and not rise up. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you some context and then I'll get into the actual writing. Now, the writing itself is called Winter, 1609 to 1610, titled The Starving Time. Okay. The Starving Time. And you can go to any national, I think it's on the nationalinstitute.org. I'll leave a link in the description once this video is this live stream is done. But let's get some context. George Percy was one of the wealthy gentlemen among the 144 men who settled Jamestown in 1607. He served as president of the colony during the starving time of 1609 to 1610, when more than 400 colonists died, leaving only 60 survivors. He wrote A True Relation in 1624, partly to justify his leadership during this period. Okay. Further context. A fleet of 9 ships arrives. Now, this is 1607. A fleet of 9 ships arrives in Jamestown, carrying needed food, supplies, and about 400 new settlers, including women and children, increasing the colony's population to 504 people. When Captain John Smith is burned in a gunpowder accident, his rivals use the opportunity to force his return to England. Percy, this George Percy, is then named to succeed Smith as president of the council and president of the colony. Okay, so even when they say George Washington was the first president, you got to remember that's not true. He was the first president of the so-called United States, but he was not the first president of any of these so-called colonies. And actually, there's other narratives that show how the chiefs and kings of the indigenous peoples were actually the first presidents, okay, of these colonies. So we'll get into that at a later time. Maybe that's not really my MO today. But now that you have context of who George Percy is, let's get into his writing. The winter 1609 to 1610, the starving time. Now remember, this narrative is a direct written narrative from someone who lived at that time, who was voted in as the president of the colony of Jamestown after Captain John Smith, the famous John Smith, was forced back to England. Okay, there was already usurping and uprising taking place in the colonies amongst the English at this time. Okay, which goes to show you just how much organization they actually had, or lack of organization. They had to look to the indigenous nations who were already confederacies, who already had constitutions, who already had full swing of national life and identity, in order to usurp that constitution and confederacy from the Powhatan people and adopt it into what we would now see as the United States Constitution. Again, that's another conversation, but all of this information came to me when I had to do my own geological research as it pertains to this particular land of the so-called United States today. So I've known this for quite some time by the grace of the Most High. And now, on this wonderful Thanksgiving, it is time to bring out where Thanksgiving really came from. And we're going to see who the savages really were. I hope y'all are ready. Winter 1609 to 1610, the starving time. Now, all of us at Jamestown, beginning to feel that sharp prick of hunger, which no man truly described, but he which has tasted the bitterness thereof. Now, remember, this is our direct written narrative from George Percy. So I'm directly quoting his words. Okay. This was a letter written to the King of England, if I'm correct, at the time. Now, listen, here we go. The starving time, winter 1609, 1610. Now, all of us at Jamestown, beginning to feel that sharp prick of hunger, which no man truly describes, but he which has tasted the bitterness thereof. A world of miseries ensued, as the sequel will express unto you. In so much that some to satisfy their hunger have robbed the store, for the which I caused them to be executed. Then having we were glad to make shift with vermin as dogs, cats, rats, and mice. All was fish that came to net to satisfy cruel hunger, as to eat boots, shoes, or any other leather some could come by. And those being spent and devoured, some were enforced to search the woods and to feed upon serpents and snakes, and to dig the earth for wild and unknown roots. Where many of our men were cut off of and slain by the savages. And now famine beginning to look ghastly and pale in every face, that nothing was spared to maintain life, and to do those things which seem incredible, as to dig up dead corpses out of graves and to eat them. And some have licked up the blood which has fallen from their weak fellows. And among the rest, this was most lamentable, that one of our colony murdered his wife, ripped the child out of her womb, and threw it into the river, and chopped the mother in pieces and salted her for his food, the same not being discovered before he had eaten part thereof, for the which cruel and inhumane fact I adjudged him to be executed, the acknowledgement of the deed being enforced from him by torture, having hung by the thumbs with weights at his feet a quarter of an hour before he would confess the same. The letter goes on to talk about how they had to continue cannibalism and how they were forced to do rather unspeakable things and unspeakable acts in order to maintain their survival during that time of 1909, during the winter of 1909 to 1910. They did every unspeakable thing you can think of. They ate mice, rats, vermin, horses. Okay, they ate whatever swine they could eat. But it's funny because some of the swine was saved because the swine was considered uh, the sort of animal like we know today, which continues to breed at a high rate. And so they didn't really want to eat the swine. It was precious to them, but they would eat dead bodies. Okay, let me read that again. They were eating snakes and serpents. Okay. Many of our men, once the famine beginning to look ghastly and pale in every face, that nothing was spared to maintain life, and to do those things which seem incredible, as to dig up dead corpses out of graves and to eat them. So the people who were killed by the indigenous population, by the warriors who were here, were buried in graves. And once the winter of 1609 and 1610 kicked in, those bodies were dug up and would begin to be cooked and eaten by the colonists, the English colonists. Okay. And as I read, there was a member of the colony who dispatched and killed his wife, who was pregnant, might I add. And the man ripped the baby from the womb of that woman and threw it into the river with the alligators. I'm sure there were alligators there at the time, and threw the baby into the river, chopped his woman up into pieces, salted her, and ate her. Now, what this George Percy isn't saying is he claims that they didn't find out about this instance until later. But reading in between the lines, for them to be so hungry, I'm quite sure that many other people in the colony joined in that man who was eating, joined with that man who was eating his wife and partook of her flesh as well. Very despicable. And you wouldn't find those sort of acts take place amongst our indigenous ancestors here. Okay. You wouldn't see that happening. And so what we see is a group of people who are at peace being called savages, okay, by people who invaded the land, took the land, and then began eating themselves in cannibalism when they were unable to cultivate the land in a masterful way and actually grow food and resources for themselves as alien invaders into this land. Thank you. And you can excuse yourself if you would like to. So I appreciate you. So, what do we see here? We see the beginning throes of Babylon, the system of Babylon uh, beginning. And I'd like to thank all the viewers who are coming in today. Welcome to the live stream. I hope everybody's doing well. I truly do. As always, if you've missed the first parts of this live stream, you can share it to yourself and then go back and view the live stream yourself. I hope everybody can hear me okay. It looks like I have action. As you see, I have this headset on today. Uh, Folks have been saying my ear pods have been hard to hear me with. So we're going to try a new approach today. But you see, nice as can be. And this is just something to take note of. It was from that instance, the winter of 1609, 1610, that our indigenous ancestors and ancestresses had pity, had pity. Now, not all of them, not all of our ancestors and ancestresses here had pity. Many fought against that and said, no, we should not help them. And whenever I read the narrative, I just be like, why did our people help these people? Why? Why did our people help these people? Because they came over with sparkly and shiny objects. They came over with false promises. And that's why the majority of our people helped these people. And every time a treaty was broken, every time a promise was broken, it just solidified the truth that those of our people who were awake saw from the very beginning. Okay. But this isn't about a woe is me. You know me. I don't like to do the woe is me. I like to put everything in context so that we can understand, overstand, and understand what's exactly going on. Now, as the colonizers came over, they began to be taught different skill sets in order to survive in the land and not have what happened to them in 1609 and 1610 happen again. Okay. Obviously, what happened was very sad. The women and children who were brought over did not deserve that, but I think it's interesting that the men of their own people, when pushed to serious and extreme hunger, would identify those who are weaker than them as targets to be food. That says a lot about these people. And the scriptures tell us that the day will come in modern times when many people will run and do the same things. Many people will uh, fall into that moral snare, or shall I say, the snare of immorality. Okay. And when they do so, they will be going back to the ways of their ancestors and ancestresses and engaging in all sorts of cannibalism, all sorts of nefarious activity in order to sustain themselves. That's why on this channel, I always ask you all to prepare yourselves by getting the flour, the cornmeal, getting your seasonings right, getting your bags of rice and beans together, and getting your cabinets and cupboards situated survive any future shutdowns, any food shortages that are sure to take place one of these days soon. Okay. Okay. Excuse me, y'all. Said my connection was unstable. So when that starts to happen, I know the clouds are coming in overhead. Let's get into these scriptures. What's up with Babylon? Well, this is the nation of Babylon right now, as we know it today, and the system of Babylon has been hidden and masked by the name of America. Okay. Now, this system, it has far-reaching implications all over the world at this point. That's another reason why it's difficult for us to just leave this place and not still deal with the extended arm of this system wherever we go. Okay. But if you were tuned into this live stream when I first started, I began singing a song to you. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we went where we remembered Zion. By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down. Mm. Yeah, we went when we remember Zion. Now, where did that song come from? That song is actually the first verse of Psalm chapter 130. Okay. Psalm chapter 137 is a narrative of our people being shipped or being taken into captivity. Okay. Being taken into captivity, but still remembering who we are as a people. Let me read it to you. Psalm chapter 137 reads, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, "Sing us one of those songs of Zion." How shall we sing the Most High song in a strange land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. Remember, O Most High, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that reward, happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Woo! Woo! If y'all here right now, go ahead and leave me a comment in the live stream. Let me know you hear me okay. Anybody who's joining into the live stream, go on and let me know you hear me okay by leaving me a comment. I'm looking at the comment board now, and I want to see if we are able to hear one another, because I'm about to get into these scriptures and break this down or build it up, however you want to look at it. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about this. Go ahead on and leave your brother True Jew a comment so I know you hear me okay. Yes. Okay. Hey, Mama Carolyn, thank you for the day. I'm so for you hearing clearly. Okay. Well, let's start at verse 1. By the rivers of Babylon that we sat down. Yeah, we wept when we remembered Zion. So I know many folks will then say, well, how do we know this isn't talking about the Babylon of old? How do we know this? Well, it's quite simple. It's quite simple. We know that the daughter of Babylon is indeed America. Okay. And we know that the daughter of Babylon is going to be destroyed. Okay. We know this. And it's one of those things that when you go to the book of Revelation, we are made very clear about. Okay. Now, let's go into the book of Revelation, chapter 18, real quick. And let's go to verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. This is talking about America. This is talking about the system of America, the United States, where every nation on earth has waxed rich, okay, has waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Remember, I started earlier saying all the former nations are able to come into this territory, come into these lands, and able to leverage the riches of this land. The Chinese, the East Indians, the so-called Arabs, the European countries, they're all able to come into this land and able to exploit it, okay, and able to get the riches of this land to then send back to their home countries in order to build those countries up. This is how we know one way that this is the daughter of Babylon. How do we know that this is also Babylon and the daughter of Babylon? We know this because this is truly the place of every wicked spirit, of every foul and unclean bird. We know this. None of those foul birds are all of the people, okay, from all of the entertainment, the wicked spirits and wicked energy that is over this place today. Okay, we can see it every single day. The MK Ultra mass killings are surging up and increasing every day, whether it be in Virginia, New York. We just had a sister who was a part of the police department out there in Greece. Where was it? Greek, New York, who just did a triple homicide. Okay, and killed herself, two other individuals, and took herself out the game. Now, there was some LGBT activity involved with that. So I know that she was already unstable, but she was a police officer who just so happened not to be on active duty during this time. Okay, so I'm looking at MK Ultra. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at what happened in Virginia. I told y'all before that we're going to start seeing more brothers, particularly being used as MK Ultra agents in order to make it look like our people are engaging in mass shootings as well, just like the crazy colonist white boy is. So all of a sudden, the past two mass killings, we have a brother down there in Virginia who then killed six or so people in Walmart. Okay. And if you look at his screenshot, his mugshot, he looks absolutely insane. You can tell that there's definitely something mental about him. And then when you go into the what was that, University of Virginia, where the young man killed two or three of his football teammates, that's another MK Ultra activity that is taking place. And so now they're using the last two mass killings from these brothers as being whether we talk about furthering the excuse to remove our side and firearms, okay, that's one thing. But then now you have brothers who are involving themselves with this whole mass killing agenda. Okay, so we know that we are in the daughter of Babylon by the description that we read in the book of Revelation, chapter 18. Okay, this is how we know this. Okay, so when we're reading Psalm 137 and we're hearing about our people singing songs in Babylon, let's continue. Because while we're in Babylon, the Most High would tell us that we would remember who we were in the places of our captivity. And this is what we see right now. This is what we see right now throughout all of the land. Okay, this is what we are seeing with this great awakening. It has nothing to do with any metaphysics. It has nothing to do with any alternative forms of science and this sort of thing. It has everything to do with our cultural inheritance, with our true identity. Now, like I always have to say, once you wake up to who you are, this is way more than just saying and claiming that you are Hebrew Israelite. There's a heavy weight that comes along with who you are, as it has always been. It's just that we didn't know who we were, but we felt the weight of who we were. Okay. Let me say that again. We didn't always know who we were, but we always felt the weight of who we were. And we didn't know how to associate that weight we were feeling with the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High. Okay, now this is why it's so important to know who you are and then to know what steps to take next in order to get right with the Most High. Now, we will remember now. We will remember Zion, the holy mountain, our true government. Okay, we will remember Zion. But check this out. We hanged our harps. This is verse 2. This is verse 2 of Psalm chapter 137. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. What are the willows? The willows are those trees that are normally planted by bodies of water, and they have long flowing branches and leaves. And they're also known as what? Weeping willows. Why are they called weeping willows? Because it is by those trees that our people wept in remembrance of Zion. It is by those trees that our people were able to get a moment of peace, a moment of reflection. And it is during those moments of reflection that we recalled and remembered who we truly were. Okay. How do we know we wept by the willows? Verse 1 told us that. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept. We wept when we remembered Zion. Okay. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. We hanged our harps because as we wept, we had no joy in our hearts any longer. We had no reason to sing songs of praise. We were confused. We were saddened at the fact that we were taken from our lands and put into the place of our captivity. How do we know that we were in the place of our captivity? How do we know we were saddened? Because we wept. But let's keep on reading. Verse 3. For they that carried us away captive required of us a song. Now, what's one thing our people are good at? What are we identified with as being so-called African Americans in this land? What's the top industry that we truly pioneer? It's entertainment, right? It's entertainment. Yes, talented. Very good. It is the talent. It is the singing and dancing and athletic abilities that have been exploited from our people in order to entertain the rest of the world. Would we all agree to that? We can all agree that we are the best singers, entertainers, dancers, athletes on the world, right? We can agree to that. How was that exploited from us in the place of our captivity, though, when we were saddened, when we were so discouraged for being moved out of our national lands? They required of us a song. Who is they? Our captors. Those of us, those who stole us away. Yes, we are the salt of the earth, the spice of life. Okay. Now, check this out. It was our oppressors and captors who required of us a song. And they required a certain song from us. They didn't want a song that was sad, that would cause us to remember who we were. No, they wanted a song filled with mirth. Mirth is happiness and joy. So now you see, after generations and generations of singing songs of happiness and joy for our oppressors' behalf, we have been inundated with the narrative that they would want us to sing about. And the more we birth new generations into this realm, the more we separated from those songs of sadness that caused us to remember Zion for a large portion of the seasons of our life here in our captivity. But the Most High promised that those shucking and jiving songs, all that shucking and jiving that we had grown to do in entertaining the oppressor would come to an end. And we would be again called to remember who we were. And we would then turn and face the east and seek the face of the Most High so that we can be returned unto Zion. Let's continue reading. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of songs of Zion by the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down. Yeah, we went as we remember Zion. Okay? But what's that next line in that song? There the wicked carried us away into captivity. Y'all hearing the song now? So they that carried us away into captivity required of us a song, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. But we said, in response to that, how shall we sing the Most High song in a strange land? How shall we sing the Most High song in a strange land was the question. Then our people realized something very important. If I forget, this is verse 5 of Psalm chapter 137. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. See, we needed our right hands to carpenter and to build and to construct this kingdom that we live in today. It was by the blood of our brow, the sweat of our brow, the blood of our flesh, and the strength of our backs that we created this country for our oppressor's sake. And past, let the past be bygones, bygones be bygones, and just take what you can and leverage that for your own people's sake today. Well, if you are just now joining this live stream, we already had our Black Wall Streets. We already had our Tulsas. We already had our Rosewoods. We already had our movements. We already had our kingdoms and our civilizations here long before the colonizer came. This is what we need to understand. And every single time we got the ball rolling for ourselves and pulled ourselves up from the bootstraps, every single time we was knocked down, we was chopped down, we was attacked, we was infiltrated, we was killed, we was genocided right here on this soil that we live in right now. Okay? Every single time. So it's important for us to realize that we never forgot Jerusalem. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget my cunning or her cunning. So we're not going to forget at all. The scriptures then go on to tell us in verse 6, if I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. Okay. That means that if I do not remember where I'm from, then I just need to shut up. I need to just shut up and not say nothing. Are y'all getting this? This is one of the reasons, as we remember who we are not shutting up. We're crying aloud. We're doing our best to tell our people who we are. We're doing our best to awaken up the lost sheep of the tribes of Israel so that we can be returned back to our holy land. Now, if we don't take full advantage of the season that we are in right now, from this so called freedom of speech, from this so called reach that we have through the internet, through the YouTubes and the Twitter platforms, we will be wasting an opportunity to reach as many of our people as possible. Okay? This is why it's so important for us to know who we are so that we can use the devices that were created for wickedness against the wicked one and use them for the most high. Use them for the callings that we were called to actually deal with, which is waking our people up and repenting unto the Most High. Okay? So if I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. Obviously, you see, your brother True Jew remembers who we are. That's why my tongue hasn't cleaved to the roof of my mouth. But if I'm out here talking vain things, if I'm out here entertaining the oppressor, if I'm out here building up our captivity more by not recognizing who we are and doing what I can, or you doing what you can to free our peoples mentally before we are freed physically, then let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. I don't even need to be saying nothing. I'm a waste of space. Let me just shut up and get drunk. Let me set up and let me go and get my 25-pound butterball turkey, pop that into the oven, and let me cook and be like the oppressor. I just read to you the narrative called The Starving Time, the winter of 1609 to 1610, written by George Percy, which was an actual narrative. It was his letter to England, letting England know that almost 400 of the colonists who came over in that first wave had died. There were only 60 people left, and they had to resort to cannibalism because they were not equipped and did not know how to survive on the Eastern Shoreboard during this very time that we see right now, during this winter time. Okay? They weren't prepared. They were not prepared at all. In the same way that those colonists weren't prepared, we are going to see a lack of preparation kick in modern times today, where the descendants of those people take up arms, where the descendants of those people begin to result to cannibalism again today because of food shortages, because of the impending doom that's going to take place in Babylon. I don't like having to be a harbinger of bad news. I really don't. I really don't. Some days I wish we could just talk about the good and sweet things, and I wish that we can just all kumbaya for real and just kick it and have fun. I wish I didn't have to do no prep. I wish sometimes I didn't have to move my family from the Bay Area. We just fine where we at. I wish that the extension of the Babylonian system wasn't as strong as it is. But unfortunately, it is because once again, I was not put here. You, as a Hebrew Israelite person, was not put in this society, in this system, to achieve the American dream. Do I have to say that again? We were not placed here to achieve the American dream. We weren't placed here for the Maybach, for the Maserati. We weren't placed here for the Range Rover and the big house. We weren't placed here for the palm trees. We weren't placed here for the yachts, as my grandfather would call yachts. We wasn't placed here for none of those extracurricular material things that we see the world clamoring after when they come to this land. That's not why we was placed here. I hate to be the harbinger and bearer of bad news. We were placed here because we were put into captivity as a form of punishment. Again, what is that form of punishment? That form of punishment is for turning away from the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High. Had we not turned away from the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High, y'all, we would still be celebrating the high holy days of the Most High in our land. We wouldn't have nothing to do with no pagan Thanksgiving. We wouldn't have nothing to do with no pagan Christmas and no Yule logs and no Yuletide carols. We wouldn't have nothing to do with Halloween. Okay. We wouldn't have nothing to do with Easter, none of that stuff. Okay. We would be dealing with the high holy days of the Most High only. Okay. So that's how we started eating pork, ham. That's exactly how we started eating ham. A lot of the ham eating came from the colonizers. Let me tell you something. Swine, as we see it today, is a European animal. I don't know if y'all knew this. They brought swine on them ships to the Americas. Pork was not here. And you know what they did? They also brought their Europeanized cows here. Okay. Let me tell you what was here. This is how you know this is a land of Shem as well. And the people of Shem lived here, following the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High. You want to know how? We didn't have pork here. Our animal was the bison, okay? The buffalo, okay? And guess what? The buffalo is a clean animal, okay? The deer is a clean animal. That's what we had to eat here. We had tons and tons of freshwater fish that were clean animals that we ate. We didn't eat pig. Pig was brought here by the European. That's what they ate. And when they started their Thanksgiving holiday, they began introducing the pig. We were eating wild turkey. Okay. We ate everything clean. Okay. For the most part. Yeah, some of our people might eat the conch and certain seafoods that weren't clean. Okay. But for the most part, we ate the clean foods. Okay. And that is definitely how the beginnings of pork and ham, honey glazed ham. Oh, yeah. That Thanksgiving staple of honey glazed ham. We're not supposed to be eating that with the little pineapple on top. Eat the pineapple, but don't even cut the pineapple up to put it on the honey glazed ham. You shouldn't even have that in your house. Now, who am I to say? Oh, I'm just saying, let's say the Most High. We're not even supposed to touch the carcass of swine. I'm glad y'all like that. Yeah, we're not even supposed to touch the carcass of the swine. Okay, let's continue. Psalm chapter 137, verse 7. Let me go back to verse 6. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. Okay, so you should be preferring to return home above any and all things once it comes to the knowledge of self, once it comes to repentance. Now you should be looking towards home, okay, towards the land that the Most High separate for us. That's where you should be looking toward. You shouldn't be looking toward keeping on building up this system, no. You shouldn't be looking toward keeping on trying to clamor after the American dream, okay? And I know it's tough. It's tough, but we are still on the bottom of the totem pole. We are still on the bottom of society, and it's not going to be like that forever. Okay. As a matter of fact, let's get to verse 7 now. Remember, O Most High, the children of Edom or Edom in the day of Jerusalem. What is the day of Jerusalem? The day of Jerusalem was talking about the day of 70 AD. Okay. During that final invasion of Rome under Emperor Vespasian, okay, y'all need to know some history. That final invasion of Rome of 70 AD is what pushed the rest of our people deeper into the interiors of Central and West Africa. Okay, a lot of our other people, many of our other people, crossed the Mediterranean into Southern Europe, into the regions of Italy and Portugal. Okay. I don't eat pork. I stopped eating meat for 4 months, but had to start back because I can't starve myself. Financially, it's expensive to eat healthy. I hear that a lot. Financially, it's expensive to eat healthy. You know what it really is our bodies have to get accustomed to eating vegetables and root vegetables again, right? And so we eat, and then some of us get it can be overwhelming to cook variants in different dishes. Okay, so it seems like there's not a variance of dishes to be cooked. But when you get creative, get you a cookbook, which is a veggie-based cookbook. I know a lot of older cookbooks, believe it or not, they teach you how to blanch, how to julienne vegetables and all of that sort of thing, teach you how to steam. bake vegetables a certain way. So you could get very creative with how you cook. And then when it comes to meat, I don't knock you. I don't knock anybody who wants to eat meat. Just make sure that your meat is clean according to the scriptures. Okay, so you want to eat the fish with scale and fin. Okay, you want to eat clean birds. Okay, you want to eat clean meat. Leave the pork alone, leave the shrimp alone, leave the lobsters alone, the crabs, the clams, the oysters. Leave all that stuff alone, okay? Because that stuff is what's unhealthy for us. That's what gives us the high blood pressure. That's what gives us the diabetes. That's what gives us all of these diseases and ailments. Um, the obesity, all of these sorts of things that our people don't need. Okay, no one really needs it, but especially our people. You know, one thing I talk about all the time. Side note, before we get back to the scripture, is let me see. Let me reach into my pocket real quick. All right, so these are my ear pods, right? My ear pods. Now, those ear pods came with instructions. Okay, I didn't know how to use the ear pods at first. I know I'm a millennial and all this stuff, but I didn't know how to use the AirPods. I didn't know that there was a little button at the bottom of the case that I had to push in order to sync and actually connect my phone to. I didn't know that until I read the instructions. Everything we're given in life from the oppressor, from the colonizer, from these technologically advanced institutions comes with instructions. It's funny to me how anytime we get something new, technologically based, we're quick to read the instructions. Oh, we don't want to break that. We don't want to hurt, we don't want to hurt think a second thing about it. Well, you live in a body just like I do, right? These are avatars. These are the most biologically advanced organisms on the planet. Talking about our bodies, we can think, we can be intuitive. We have ultra sensory perception. We have all sorts of gifts and talents. We know how to use our bodies. We jump high. We run fast. We sing songs. We cook. We dance. We do all sorts of things. We build. We extrapolate thought. We write. We do all these great things with this body, and yet nobody really seeks out the instructions that were written and given to us in pertinence to how to use these bodies. The Most High. So let's say Steve Jobs is the creator of these AirPods, right? We don't mind reading Steve Jobs' instructions on how to use his creation, right? Shouldn't we do even more when it comes to learning and reading the instructions about learning how to use our bodies that were created by the Most High? Okay. You get a new vehicle, it says put in diesel gas, or it says put in high petroleum, right? It says put in a certain oil and transmission fluid, right? You did your due diligence for that because you wanted that vehicle to run for as long as it would run, right? You wanted that vehicle to operate at its full performance, right? In its highest optimum state, right? Well, we have instructions too, as Hebrew Israelite people, on what to eat and how to be when it comes to these bodies so that our bodies can function at their highest optimum rate. Do you understand? That's why the dietary laws are so important. If we would just follow the dietary laws, we wouldn't deal with so much diabetes and so much high blood pressure and obesity. Okay. A lot of the ills, mental ills that we face as a people, I don't think we would deal with as well. Okay. Thank you, Awakened Goddess. Thank you for joining us this evening too. See, so these things are very important to realize. Okay. And the more that we get into the swing of this, yeah, it's hard. I remember, let's see, pork was one of the last things I let go. I was raised off of them pork chop sandwiches all day. That's what we was on. Pork chop sandwiches, pork chops and spaghetti. Y'all know, with the hot sauce. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I never was really a chitlin kind of guy. But if chitlins was what it was and somebody cooked them good and can ensure that the chitlins was cleaned out all the way, then we was eating bowl of chitlins with hot sauce and greens. Am I telling the truth or am I lying? So, right, which is hog, which is swine. That was hard at first. Okay. I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you. That was hard at first until I realized that there were alternatives, that I could cook my own pizza and add my own toppings to them. So then when I found out about turkey pepperoni, guess what I did? I would get the cheese pizza. It might be all the way cooked. I would get the cheese pizza, and then I pop the pepperonis on top of it. That was turkey pepperoni. Pop that in the oven for a few minutes. Let them pepperonis get cooked, and now I got me pepperoni pizza again. But this time it's turkey pepperoni. Then we messed around and we found a restaurant that cooks halal food because it was ran by Muslim people. And now, even though they still sold pork-based pepperoni, which they shouldn't, right? But they did that for their clients who needed the pork pepperoni. And guess what? They knew when your brother Chu came in, I wasn't going to be dealing with no pork pepperoni. So you know what they had for me and my family? Beef pepperoni. And have y'all ever had beef pepperoni? Woohoo! It's delicious. And you still get your pepperoni on your pizza and all your chicken and whatever else you like to get. So there are always, the Most High is always going to make a way for an alternative that's in line with the Most High's commands when it comes to the dietary laws. That's my point. That's my point in saying that. All right. So when we talk about Thanksgiving today, first of all, every day should be a day of thanks. Now, that's not no cliche, especially as a Hebrew Israelite person who didn't know who you were before yesterday or before today. The fact that you still have breath in your lungs and is able to wake up today, and the fact that you are able to repent and turn your face unto the Most High before your spirit and soul is separated from your avatar, that is the greatest blessing that one could actually receive. Because now you have an opportunity to live according to the tenets, laws, statutes, commands, ordinances of the Most High, while you still got breath in your lungs, and actually serve the Most High in spirit and in truth. Okay, great opportunity for us all today. All right, and thank y'all for the thumbs up. You know that helps with the algorithms. I thank y'all truly. But let's keep on going, because we're gonna see that the children of Edom, the Edomite people, did something very dastardly in 70 AD when they destroyed the temples of Jerusalem and pushed our people deeper into Africa. Let's read. Raise it, even to the foundation thereof. Most High told us when we turned our back on the Most High, that whole land he gave us was going to be overrun by vultures, going to be overrun by wickedness and wicked people who had no good intent for us. Our temples will be destroyed, everything would be made desolate, and nothing would be left standing that had anything to do with the remembrance of us. But guess what? Once we wake up and remember who we are, we get brought back to the land, that land is going to be built back up again as it's never been built before. Okay? But let's keep going. Raise it, even to the foundation thereof. And that is what happened. Verse 8, O daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed. This is why we know this isn't talking about the Babylon of the past. I hope y'all hearing me. Listen to the language. Who ought to be destroyed. It hasn't been destroyed yet. As we read in the book of Revelation chapter 18, that destruction is coming. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. So you scriptures, the Most High tells us that vengeance is the Most High's. Vengeance is of the Lord. That's exactly what the Most High means. We have not been put here to avenge ourselves. Okay, that's another reason why we raise up every other year and we get to rioting and we get to declaring through the streets how unjust and unpeaceful we have been treated. This is why we never seem to get anywhere with that, because vengeance is not for us. Repentance is for us. I hope y'all are hearing what I'm saying. Repentance is for us. And once we repent in unification as a people, then that sky is going to crack open. And the Most High, the day of the Most High, is going to show up. And this daughter of Babylon is going to be destroyed. And all the nations who what? Let's get a direct quote. All the nations who wax rich through the abundance of her delicacies, oh my goodness, they're going to be crying off from afar. What are they going to be saying? They're going to be saying, Let's see what they're going to be saying. Verse 9 of Revelation 18. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall be well off for the fear of her torment. See, all those people, all those kings and those nations that was coming over here, immigrating over here, oh, they finna get out. They finna get out. They finna go back home. They not finna stand around and wait for this place to be destroyed, but they finna stand afar off and they finna cry and wail, and they're gonna be so upset that their bottom lines have been affected. They're gonna be so upset that they cannot do business here no more, and they can't exploit the land and exploit the business. They're gonna be so sad that industry is going to be shut down, and they're not gonna have an export or import to be able to leverage to build up their places and to get all of that money, all of that dollar, all of that resource that enabled them to be financially increased throughout the world. Oh, they're going to be so sad. They're going to be wail and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment. They're not going to want what they see happening to America, the daughter of Babylon, happening to them. Oh, no, no, no. They're going to stand in fear when that happens, because now they're going to see the truth of prophecy being manifest in real time. Woo-wee! Can y'all imagine that? Standing afar off for the fear of her torments. Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, not because she crying, not because she's falling and being destroyed, but because they can no longer exploit the goods and riches from this place, the delicacies of this place. For no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. You see, they not going to be crying for the people that's still here lost and confused, that's going to be bombed to oblivion. They're not going to be crying for all of the riots and all of the pain and suffering and all of the destruction that the news is going to be presenting on international media in regards to this place. Do you think that's why they're going to be crying? Do you think that that mercy is going to be, or that sorrow is for our people's children and other people's children falling in the street? Do you think that's why they're going to be crying? That's not why they're going to be crying, y'all. The scriptures tell us why they're going to be crying. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and the thyine wood and all manners vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood and of brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointment and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. Yes, you heard that correctly. That last thing that they was buying was the souls of men. Okay. So when people get up there and say, oh, you can't sell your soul, those souls is being bought every day, y'all. People are selling their souls for all of those items of material, all of those riches, all of that wealth that was just named, from the silk and scarlet to the wood, the precious wood, the brass, the iron, the cinnamon, the gold, the silver, the fine flour, the wine, the oil, the beast, the sheep, the wheat, the horses. Sound like I'm singing a Shirley Caesar song. The rams, the lambs, the jams, the rams, the moon, the wind. You name it. They're going to be crying over it. Especially over the souls of men that they cannot purchase any longer. Repentance and not equality at this time. Our reign comes in the new kingdom for those who are worthy. Yes, for those of us who turn back to the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High, the new kingdom is for us. That is correct. And right now, we are not seeking after equality in this place. We were not brought here for equality. If we were brought, listen, first of all, equality and being brought to some place in captivity doesn't even go hand in hand. Okay. So, how were we brought here? Yeah, it was something else. That Shirley Caesar was something else. Because she's supposed to be a pastor, she's supposed to be a preacher, a reverend, and she's telling people to eat the hog and the ham on Thanksgiving. You name it, you eat it. So we know that she was being used as a pastor of confusion of her people. And how popular and viral that song went, it just caused more of our people to say, well, Sister Shirley Caesar saying eat it. So why I'm not supposed to eat it? Big Mom and them ate it. So that's what I'm supposed to eat too. That's wrong, family. Especially in this day where you have all access to these so-called smart devices and smartphones to be able to clear up the confusion that our people have been put through. Okay? This is very important, y'all. And like I said, I hate to sound like a broken record, but Most High knew what he was doing when he called me to this work, because I am a recording artist and music is one of the names of my game. So I have to perform either way it go. I might as well perform now in front of the Most High unto his people. Okay. I would rather get on this stage and continue to stage night after night and be talking some madness in a song that I wrote, wickedness, reciting those words over and over again, causing our people to get into deeper confusion, still sounding like a broken record. I would rather get on here and speak the truth and use whatever device and tool I had at my expense and my disposal in order to deliver truth. Okay. Let me sound like a broken record for the Most High. Hey, and it's all good and fine. But are y'all seeing what's going on? Are y'all seeing? And I hope that you read the book of Revelation and you see more clearly that, wait a second, that ties directly in. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. It's your bruh, true Jew, coming with the truth by the grace of the Most High, that is. So look, O daughter of Babylon, back into Psalm 137, who ought to be destroyed. This is verse 8. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. How was we served in this place? How was we served in this place? Let's go back to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and we'll see how we were served in this place. Okay, this is how we were served in this place. We were cursed in the city and cursed in the field. Mom and Big Papa was out there in the field all day, from sun up to beyond sundown, picking cotton, picking all kind of sugar cane, chopping all kind of cane, doing all sorts of things for massa in there, right? Didn't own a single morsel, didn't own a single tidbit of what was happening in that field. Every time we went to the city, we had to have a permission slip. We had to have a piece of paper. We couldn't even read the words on it. And that permission slip said, belonging to Master so-and-so. Property of Master so-and-so must be back before sundown. Do not hang. Do not lynch. This is my property. Cursed were we in the city, and cursed were we in the field. Okay? This is how we was rewarded in the daughter of Babylon. Let's continue. Cursed shall be thy basket in thy store. Okay? We starting up all these businesses, talking about support each other, black on this, black on that. We can't support nobody. Ain't that a trip? Because we still got jealousy and envy toward our brothers and sisters in our own eye. Crabs in a bucket, right? Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. Oh, now our children is running around here cursed. Not only was our forefathers and foremothers cursed, but as soon as they began to have more children, we fell into the cursing as well. And that cursing grew into perpetuality until the cursing is going to be lifted from off of us. Cursed shalt thou be when thou come in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou go out. Oh my goodness. Do you think them brothers and sisters that got killed at the Walmart the other day knew that they was going to lose their lives? That one of their own brothers was going to chop them down like that? That's what you to the Most High before you leave, and gratitude while you're on the road. Give thanks and gratitude when you arrive. Give thanks and gratitude while you are shopping. Give thanks and gratitude when you pay for what your goods are. Give thanks and gratitude when you get back to your vehicle to load it up. Give thanks and gratitude for your way home. Give thanks and gratitude for when you get home. Stay connected. with the Most High at all times, to the best of your ability. The Most High shall send thee cursing, vexation, which is confusion, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed. This is a mental destruction we're talking about. And until thou perish quickly because of the wickedness of thy doings. What are the wickedness of our doings, family? When we forsake the Most High's law, statutes, and commands. The scriptures tell us, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Most High shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. We were consumed off of the land that the Most High gave to us. We were pushed deeper into the interiors of Central and West Africa, where the indigenous population of Central and West Africa then looked at us and called us things like Omo Yokwayim, which means strange people. Emo Yokwayim, strange people. Okay, a lot of the Edo and Ija people of southwestern Nigeria today are still called Emo Yokwayim, meaning strange people, because, like we like to say, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Okay, the European is the one who taught us that all Africans are the same. Our family in Africa don't even call themselves Africans like that. Everybody has a nation and a tribe that they belong to on the continent and greater expanse of Africa. Okay, but we know this. We know this. We know our skin folk ain't kinfolk. We know this. But our people was pushed into the interiors of Africa and identified by the indigenous populations in those regions as strange people whose language was hard to understand. Do y'all understand this? So when them colonizers and them Europeans from today say, oh, slavery been around since the beginning of time. And when they try to tell you, well, don't blame us. Who you think we purchased you from? Africans sold Africans. So you need to go be blaming them. Don't fall for that. All you got to do is say, the same way all Europeans ain't the same is the same way all Africans ain't the same, buddy. The same way y'all be funking with German and Russia, Britain and France. The same had Kenyans arguing with Tanzanians. Okay. Now I'm not getting deeper into the tribes, but y'all get what I'm saying. Y'all get what I'm saying. So I don't want to hear, oh, well, Africans enslaved Africans and this and that. Nah, buddy, because every nation is a nation in Africa. And some nations don't rock with other nations. And when the true Israelite people were forced into deeper the interior of Africa from Northeast Africa, which is erroneously and ignorantly called the Middle East today, that group of Northeast Africans was different than the groups of Central and West Africans who they encountered as they went into and fled into the interiors of those regions. Okay? So we're not going to sit up here and be believing no lie. But all of this happened. Okay? Verse 25. Let's go to verse 24 of Deuteronomy 28. The Most High shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust, meaning we would fall into great famine. We would be unable to cultivate and grow. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Most High shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Who is the only people on the earth today removed from their land and taken into all kingdoms of the earth to be exploited and to be enslaved? Who? This is why, even in the cursings, we have an identifier on who we are as the children of Israel. And this is why it matters on who we are. Okay? This is exactly why it matters about who we are. Because when we identify the cursings placed over our people and rightly associate that heavyweight, that monkey, that King Kong that's been put on our back, that's when we also rightly associate who those cursings were given to and befell. And if we can identify who those cursings befell, and we can identify people on earth today who are still underneath those cursings, then whoever is underneath those cursings by the scriptural account, must be the Hebrew Israelite people who were scattered to the four corners of the world due to turning our backs on the Most High's law, statutes, and commands. Somebody talk to me. Not only come and able to do so, what about the country we live in that purchase everything from China? They keep money circulating 100. That's right. And those are the merchants who are going, those are some of the merchants who are going to be standing afar, crying and screaming and shouting, not because of what they see happening in, as far as a violent bloodshed in this present day America, i.e., the daughter of Babylon, but because all of their made in China goods are no longer going to be able to be purchased, because they're going to ship over a lot of merchandise before the destruction of this country. They're going to ship over millions, maybe billions of dollars of merchandise, and no return is going to take for them, no financial return. All of that merchandise is going to be destroyed, you see, and that's why they're going to be crying. Okay, they're not going to be crying because people are dying. They're going to be crying because nobody is buying. Ooh, that's a bar. They're not going to be crying because these people is dying. They're going to be crying because nobody is buying. I hope y'all hear me. I hope y'all hear the word. Let's get back to Psalm chapter 137, verse 9. Happy shall he be that taketh and dashes thy little ones against the stones. I don't know if y'all knew this, but they have all kind of adverts from back in the day with little so-called Negro babies painted and drawn onto these adverts. And these little Negro babies are being dangled over alligators to be fed to the alligators. This is what they call the gator food. I don't know if y'all know about this, but when them colonizers came over here and all of our people on the Eastern Shoreboard who already had civilization popping, yeah, these colonizers came over and they took their big buck blades and their swords and they tied our women to trees. Yes, it's very heinous. They tied our women to trees and they took those swords and they ripped open the wombs of our mothers, of our sisters, of our aunties. And they pulled the babies from the wombs of our women. And they dashed our babies' heads against stones and allowed their horses, to trample on our children. Rest in peace to all of our mothers and all of our sisters and all of our kinfolk who had to endure that pain. So when they say, don't worry about the past, and they say, just forget about it, while still telling us to remember 9/11 and the so-called Holocaust and all of these other so-called atrocities that reach their people, don't, don't you ever forget what you've been through. And don't you ever forget who you are the descendant of and how strong you had to be in order to endure the chastisement and punishment of the Most High to get to this modern day where you can finally speak up and cry aloud to your people who are still deaf, dumb, and blind to the truth. I refuse to waste time at this point in my life. I refuse to waste time at this season of my life. I refuse to sit back and allow my prime to go past me and not use my strength as a young man in order to do everything that I can to wake our people up and to stand strong for the truth. I refuse. I'm not going to be wasting my energy on no basketball court for nobody to pay me a check. Narcissistic monsters indeed. And it is very heinous. But this is the thing that we have to remember. So the scriptures tell us, happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Okay. Now, that's not talking about those narcissistic monsters who were happy when they did it to us. No, no, no. That's talking about the payment back. Yeah, if y'all didn't know, that's part of the vengeance of the Most High. You see, Christianity has taught us to turn the other cheek Christianity has told us to forgive and forget, to let bygones be bygones. But that form of Christianity is not what the scriptures tell us at all. Okay. And so I know when we talk about what's really being said in the scriptural narrative, that is when we're identified as extremists. That's when all of a sudden we're identified as anti Shemitic. That's when we're identified as monsters ourselves. That's when we're identified as evil, wicked people, right? Because we're going against the narrative of peace to everybody when peace has not been given to us. When we start messing up their bottom lines and we start telling our people to leave their holidays alone that they depend on to make their billions of dollars yearly, then we're a problem. You see, Thanksgiving and Halloween and Christmas is their biggest holidays. All of the goods and items that they have in their coffers that were not sold through the first 3 quarters of the year, they wait to that last quarter. For those of you who aren't in business in this country, each quarter is broken up into 3 fiscal months. Okay. A fiscal month means a financial month. And these quarters are broken up into 3 months apiece: 3, 6, 9, 12. 4 quarters. And this final quarter of the year is what they depend on to take all of that Negro money, all of that black money, all of it, and they hope to funnel it into their coffers at the end of the year. Why is it called Black Friday? Okay. I want y'all to, I'm gonna put this in the comment section real quick. When you get a chance, it should still be here on YouTube. I want y'all to check this book out. Or it's a yeah, big whammy, a big bucks rolling in. I like that. How to sell to the Negro. I want y'all to put this in your search and watch this 30 or so minute documentary that was published by corporate America as a cry out to corporate sponsors and partners who, of course, were white owned, European owned, Edom owned corporations in regards to leveraging the buying power that the so-called Negro had in this country after the civil rights movement. Okay. They said in so many words, all right, if we have to be integrated, let's make sure that we take advantage of all their money. See, that was something that they realized when we were formulating our own communities. They realized that we were circulating our money amongst ourselves and we weren't purchasing their goods any longer. And they couldn't have that. That totally defeated the purpose of them coming here and exploiting the people who was here. The reason that this country is so wealthy and financially well off is because they had such a head start on the rest of the world. What was this head start, you might ask? Well, they had what? Let's see, from 1492, 1592, 1692, 1792, 1892. They had about 400 years of pristine, perfect, great free labor. Do you know how much you can make off of 400 years of free labor? How you can grow your finances with 400 years of free labor, not having to pay a soul a single wage, but all profit, while at the same time stealing all of the land and resources, not paying for a single parcel of land, stealing it all and exploiting the resources. All they had to do was pay for the ships that they crafted, and they had to pay for their initial manpower amongst their own selves, but that was all a tax write-off. How far would we be in the society if we had 400 years of free labor? But again, we were not placed here into this territory for material gain. Okay. Now, I want to go to the book of Exodus real quick because we are dealing with Thanksgiving, right? And as always, you know, I like to get into the Most High's holy days. We've covered this before, but on a day like Thanksgiving, it's so important to retouch these things, because a lot of our people, believe it or not, we have people who know they're Hebrew Israelites now, who, even though they're new to it or they've been into it, into the awakening process, they're still waking up. And we have people who are still at the Thanksgiving party right now. Now, that's not on me to be judging from a finger pointing perspective, but I can rightly judge the action itself, because if you're putting Thanksgiving over the high holy days of the Most High, if you're celebrating Thanksgiving right now, but not celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread, did not celebrate the Passover, did not celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles, then what you doing? What are you doing? Okay, what are you doing? So let's get into it. The Feast of Mazat or Mazot is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay, then you have the Feast of Passah. Passah means Passover. Okay, so you have the Passover feast. Now, I won't break down the narrative in the sense. We're just going to read through it and lightly touch on it. Of course, you can read it yourself in the book of Exodus, chapter 12. But I want to give you a denotation of what those words mean when you hear them in the Hebrew. Matzot is the unleavened bread, Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Feast of Pesach, that is the Feast of Passover, okay? And Yahweh, the Most High, spoke to Moshe and to Aharon in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, this new moon is the beginning of the new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Yisrael, saying, on the 10th day of this new moon, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. So if you were a Levite, you would take a lamb according to the Levites, the house of your father. If you were Judah, tribe of Judah, that means your father was from the tribe of Judah. If you were Zebulun, that means that your father was from the tribe of Zebulun. If you were Naphtali, that means your father was from the tribe of Naphtali. If you were Issachar, that means your father was from the tribe of Issachar. If you were Reuben, then that means your father was from Yosef. That means your father was from the tribe of Yosef. And so on and so on and so on. Verse 4 of Exodus chapter 12. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings, according to each man's need. You make your count for the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year-old male. Take it from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same new moon. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Yisrael shall slay it between the evenings. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its inward parts. And do not leave off, and do not leave of it until morning. And what remains of it until morning, you are to burn with fire. And this is how you eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Loins, girded loins, we take our garments and we wrap the garments around our growing area and we tie them up as if ready for battle in war. Our garments usually hung down to our ankles as men, okay? But now we are to take our garments and lift them up. So it's kind of looking like how the sumo wrestlers tie up their garments, or tie up that I forget what it's called, y'all. Excuse me. It's on the tip of my tongue, but how they tie up their garment to get ready for sumo wrestling, that's the same way the men of Israel were required to tie our garments up around our growing area. Okay, our loins is our growing area. Okay, our private parts. Okay, and this is how you eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Pesah of the Most High. Mawashi, Thank you, Mama Carolyn. Yep, the Mawashi. Okay, thank you. And I shall pass through the land of Mitzrayim on that night, and shall strike all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both man and beast. And on all the mighty ones of Mitzrayim I shall execute judgment. I am Yahweh. Okay. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I strike. And you shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahweh your generations. Celebrate it as a festival, an everlasting law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you shall cause leaven to cease from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day unto the 7th day, that being shall be cut off from Yisrael. And on the first day is a set apart gathering. And on the 7th day you have a set apart gathering. No work at all is done on them, only that which is eaten by every being, that alone is prepared by you. You shall guard the festival of Matzot, for on this same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim, and you shall guard this day throughout the generations, an everlasting law. So I'll stop right there. Do you see how the Pesach or the Passover was decreed as first it was an actual ordinance that went out while our people, the final days of our people being in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim in Hebrew means house of bondage. Mitzrayim is also Egypt or Kemet, right? So what we saw is a ordinance that was pushed forward through Israel, through the Israelite people, to honor the Most High's command by slaughtering or sacrificing the lamb, a year-old lamb without blemish, a perfect lamb, spreading the blood on the doorpost of the home or the dwelling where the lamb would be eating it standing up. You heard the instructions. But verse 14 tells us that after we were to be brought out of the land and into our own land, that original circumstance would be considered to be a festival. Okay, so it would be a festive remembrance after we were brought out the land, so that we can remember everything the Most High commanded us to do while we were in Mitzrayim before bringing us out. Okay, verse 14 of Exodus 12, and this day shall become to you a remembrance. You see, a remembrance, and you shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahweh throughout your generations. Celebrate it as a festival, an everlasting law. And the same thing was to go for Matzot, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So what does this mean for Israelites today? This means that even though we're in the place of our captivity, we should still be looking at the Feast of Pesach and the Feast of Matzot as festivals for our people. You know we like to party, rug and partying and turning up for our oppressor's sake. Why are we turning up and cutting a rug and partying to build our oppressor's coffers? I'm sure everybody on this live stream knows, because we don't know who we are. And we are still under the curses of confusion. But our people are stirring up. So that's why I'm not going too hard on folks. I'm not going as hard on the folks who don't know who we are versus those who do know who we are and still is choosing to go and eat that ham. Still going to choose and eat that butterball. Okay? There's a difference. Once you know who you are, you can't go back and say you don't know no more. Now you have a responsibility. Okay? And so that's another reason why our people are like this. I don't want to hear. Don't tell me who I am. I don't want to hear. I'd rather be African American. I'd rather be Negro. I'd rather be black. I'd rather be an N. I'd rather be an N. I'd rather be an N than to be a Hebrew Israelite. Because if I got to be who I really am, that means I got to turn back to the law, statutes, commands of the Most High. I got to turn back to the ordinance of the Most High. That means I got to do all these things that the Most High commanded us to do. And in my blood, I didn't want to do this stuff no way. That's how our ancestors was. Man, why we got to do all that, Moses? Aaron, man, what's up with y'all, man? Why we got to do all that, man? Why we just can't be free and do like the other nations do, brother? Come on, man. Nobody trying to do none of that. Ain't nobody got time for that. That song been in existence. It just went viral the last few years. Our people been saying ain't nobody got time for that. And now look how the Most High made time. The Most High said, oh, you ain't got no time for that? Huh? You don't got no time for that. Okay. I'm going to make sure you got time. You're going to have from sun up to sundown. I bet you find your time now. I bet you find your time in them cotton fields. I bet you find your time in them sugar cane. I bet you find your time out there in the big house with Massa fluffing up them pillows every night, them good old comfy down pillows that you're not going to be able to sleep on. I bet you find time when you milling that cornmeal for Massa and them having to cook all that good, delicious cornbread and can't eat a piece of it and got to sneak little crumbs and morsels off to your babies every night. I bet you find time now. So I hope y'all are seeing what's really going on. It's all important. It's all important, y'all. Look, I hope y'all have a beautiful evening. What time we got? It's 9:10 in some places. Some places it's 10:10. I share. In some places it's 8:10. In some places it's 6:10. In some places it's 7:10. In some places it. What have we learned today? Important for us to see. All right, y'all, we finna wrap this up. But what have we learned today? Excuse the reception issue. What have we learned? We've learned that the Most High has high holy days and festivities and festivals for us to really adhere to and enjoy. But we also learn that as long as we're confused about who we are, we won't think twice about those festivals and will continue to cleave on to the festivals of Babylon, right? We just read in the book of Psalm that there's going to be a group of us who remember Jerusalem, who remember who we are, who will be required to sing songs of Zion in the places of our captivity. But these songs of Zion will help remind the rest of us who we are. And as long as we listen with an open ear, and as long as we apply an open mind to these songs, we can begin to do what we need to do to turn back to the Most High. Let the tongue in my mouth cleave to the root of Zion. Let's go back and let's close out this live stream with what we read in Psalm chapter 137. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they carried, let's start all the way over. I don't like when that happens when I be reading. Verse 1 of Psalm chapter 137. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yeah, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hang our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Most High's song in a strange land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. Remember, O Most High, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Psalm 137. And with that, I pray you all maintain your safety, that you all maintain your vigilance over the coming days. There's a lot of madness in the land right now. Speak goodness into your life. Okay? Make sure that you pray without ceasing. Continue to seek the face of the Most High and continue to ask the Most High to guide you along your path. Okay? Please, please do this. It's not because I'm saying to do it, but because that's something that the Most High asks of us in this day. 2/3 of our people ain't gonna make it, y'all. 2/3 of us ain't gonna make it, unfortunately. So I hope that we are of that 1/3 that do make it. And this is the thing, y'all. Let's stay vigilant. Let's stay blessed. Continue to be a blessing to those who you meet. May those who you meet be a blessing to you. May you have the divine hedge of protection around you always. Okay? May goodness flow to you and may goodness flow through you all the days of your life. May you seek the repentance of, when you seek to repent to the Most High in spirit and in truth, standing strong always in humility. Okay? Seek to be a servant of the Most High, and you will receive your crown in glory. It's your brother True Jew tapping in with y'all the only way I know how. Raw, real, and uncut. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you truly. Please continue to be blessed, stay vigilant. Until next time, Most High Mama Papa willing, I'll be back with another one. But until then, y'all know what to do. Gone.